All right. So what I'm going to show here is a common problem that people have when they do in-person contacting. So if you're doing any type of in-person contacting, you probably got a ton of, business cards lying around, and you may even have a big stack of those sitting on your desk. And as we all know, it just takes a lot of time in order to get those entered in. And then we got to make ourselves a task in order to remind us to follow up. And sometimes we may just be keeping them on a spreadsheet or other things. So what I'm going to show here is how GrowthGenie 360 can do a really good job of making this process fast and efficient. And that's going to start with the mobile app. So I'm going to share the other screen that I have up here, and it's going to go right into the mobile app. So let me pull that up. Okay. So this is the mobile app, and you can see here in the quick action section, there is a scan business card. So when I click on the scan business card, it pulls up my camera. And then if I lay my business card down on a desk, it's going to highlight it and then automatically take the picture. I didn't even press the button in order to do that. So you see the options there. You can see save down in the bottom right corner, or cancel, or you can have it auto adjust. So I'm going to press save, and then you'll see here that we have the image of the business card that's taken right there. And then it started to fill in information with just the general business card capture. So it has like first name of B, and it has last name of M, and that sort of thing. So it's not super accurate, but we'll show you how to adjust for that. All right, so it's then asking me, is there a back to this business card? Since in this case, the back of the business card is just white, we're going to press skip. Otherwise, you can scan the back and then it will put the image of the back in there as well. Okay. So when I skip that step, then I see down at the very bottom, it says refine with AI. So I'm going to press that, and then it's going to take the information that it found in the image. And now you can see here that that matches up quite nicely. We have Brian and then Dieterich, and we have the two different email addresses. We have phone number that's been put in, and you can cross-check that with the information that's up there. If we need to make a change, like it even put in that that's his mobile, because it says in the picture that that's his cell number. So we can make any needed adjustments. And then you'll see down here tags, and we're going to utilize that here in the next section. I'm going to show you how that comes into play. But if I was talking with Brian and he's like, look, I don't really reply to text messages or things like that, I can put on the do not disturb for any type of channel that I want. It comes pre-unchecked. So that means that we should be able to communicate with Brian with any channel. And then I just go ahead and I save the contact. So once I've saved the contact, it's then going to go into the CRM. And you can see here, this is Brian's contact information. So if I wanted to call him, I can call him right here from the app. If I wanted to send him an email, I can send an email, you know, create a meeting and so forth. If I want to put notes into the system and say, hey, this is what we talked about, I can go ahead and put those notes in. Um, so you can control all of that information here in the app. So we're going to move to the next section, and I'm going to show you how this stuff can be done automatically. And I will get out of this and stop sharing, and we'll go over to the other screen. So here in GrowthGenie 360, this is the desktop version that I have up here. So I'm in my account, and over on the the left hand side, you can see here, here's the menu. I'm down in automations. So I'm on that tab. And then let me actually close that down. All right. So I'm in automations, and you can see here, this is the workflow creation. Now, a workflow is a series of events that takes place once something, a contact has been enrolled into the workflow. Okay. Utilize this using the build from AI tool. Okay. So this is going to pull up the prompt. Now, I've already created a prompt. And so I'm going to copy and paste that prompt from my notes. But literally, you're going to just describe the situation of what it is you're trying to do here. So I have here create a workflow that triggers when a tag or when the tag chamber networking follow up is added. There's a 3 emails that are sent. The first is an intro about the company as well as trying to schedule a one-on-one. And then it goes on to describe what the other 2 emails are and how far apart I want those things spaced out. I can add in there, I want it to text the individual to follow up with them. There can be a whole bunch of other actions, but for the purposes of what I'm showing here, I'm just going to put in a very simple 3-part sequence. Actually, it's a 4-part because it has a text message that's in there, and then I'm going to have the system go ahead and generate that. So it's going to think about what those actions are that I'm requesting, and then it's going to create a workflow that I'm going to go in and customize. So the more detail that I give it on, like, say, that first email, if I put in there that I'd like to mention, you know, something about where we met, then it will customize the text for that. And so once again, the more detail information you put into the AI, the better off it is. Now, while this is sitting here thinking about this, I'm going to go ahead and open a second tab. Maybe I'll jump back and forth. So that's the problem with doing a live demo is you got some thinking that the computer needs to do. So um, the just to give you kind of a tour of what's going on here. So this is where it's generating the workflow. Over here is where we have the chat that goes back and forth, where I can make modifications on a global scale over here, where it's going to modify the workflow accordingly. Or I have other things that I can do as far as the other actions of putting in notes and making adjustments with the sidebar. Okay. So with all workflows, or I should say most workflows, you're going to have a trigger that's based on what causes that workflow to fire off. In this case, we're going to make that trigger a specific tag that needs to be added to the system. All right, so I chose the tag of chamber networking follow-up as my tag. So we will create an appropriate tag for that. So let me get back out of here and I can show you where you go ahead and create a tag. All right. Oh, sorry, meant to go to settings. So down in settings, this is the area in the system that we're going to be able to see what tags have been created and to be able to create a new one. Okay. So I'll click on tag here and we're going to go ahead and enter that in. All right, let's check on our workflow. Well, that's pulled up. Okay, perfect. All right, so we have the workflow that has initially been set up. And I'll zoom in here in a second, but this gives you kind of an idea of the flow of how this operates. All right, so when I zoom in here, we're going to have certain triggers that are applied. Okay, In this case, as I mentioned, the chamber networking follow-up tag has been added. If I go into details and I look at what this looks like, it's basically going to say when this particular tag is added. So I'm going to select a tag. So chamber prospecting follow-up, whatever. If I don't see it in here, I can actually create it within here, or I can create it within the settings that I was showing you over here. You can just create a new tag. Either way works, but if you want to go back, make adjustments to tags, this is where you're going to find it in the settings. All right, so in this case, chamber, what did I say? Networking. Follow up. All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. So when I add that chamber networking follow-up tag, then this workflow is going to go ahead and start. I'm not going to have in here these customer replies. So sometimes it will put in things that it thinks you need, but I'm going to go ahead and just delete these particular triggers out of booking appointments. But you can see there's lots of different ways that you can have a workflow fire off. If somebody schedules an appointment with me, then there can be an automatic workflow that goes out and follows up with them and says, all right, here's your meeting information. This is when we plan on meeting. It can send reminder emails and so forth. But for the purposes of what we're doing today, we want to add the tag, and then this email is going to go out. And in the email section here, you can have this either be a quick compose, which is where the AI has created the content for this specific email. And so we can go in and make modifications to this. But you'll see here there's different tokens of custom values that are put in here. So the username, this will actually be my name. So it'd be Stephen Platty, and then the user email signature. So it will show my signature underneath that. So it automatically has put in there those tokens so that in the case of Brian, this would say, Dear Brian, I hope this message finds you well. I'm reaching out to introduce our company. So if I'm like, I already kind of introduced our company, I can change this. And then once I'm finished, I just go ahead and save the actions. Okay. So once I've made any appropriate changes to that, then this email would go out automatically as soon as the tag is added. Then there would be a wait period that would happen. And if you want to see, oh, what is that wait period? Come in here and it says, all right, 2 days. So after 2 days, then it's going to go into, did the contact reply to this first email? And if they did reply, was an appointment booked? If none, if the conditions were met where they booked an appointment, then it's actually going to end the workflow. Okay. If the contact did not reply and all right, drag it over there. So what will happen is the second email will go out. And once again, we can go in and adjust what we want the second email to say. Once that's all good and appropriate, then we move on and just follow the workflow. Once again, it's going to check and say, did the contact reply? Did they book an appointment? And if they did, they did not reply to that one, then the third email sequence is going to go out. And then after that, the text message is going to go out. Okay. So this is already pre-built out the sequence of what it is that I want to take place. So I put in here, just chamber follow-up. I can go ahead and save that. And then I publish this. And then once it's published, it then goes live to where as soon as I enter in that contact tag into the system, And so you'll remember where I showed that to you in on the mobile phone where it said add contact. All I got to do is add in chamber networking follow up, and then all of a sudden an email will go directly out to that contact that I just put into the system. So that's how simple and easy it can be in order to follow up with people and to make sure that those leads are being touched, and we'll schedule appointments with you and so forth. So before, that probably took maybe a couple hours, and then you'd have to remember, all right, I got to go back and I got to follow up because they never replied to me and that sort of thing. So this can make a huge difference in how you're running and operating the business. Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to show you guys.